The successful warrior is the average man with laser-like focus. Bruce Lee, that's what we ask you to develop with us each and every day for 10 to 15 minutes working on that goal. Remember, with stocks, about all we're doing is a binary decision. Do I buy or do I sell? Yes, the market moves sideways sometimes, but it's moving in a direction at some point. Let's jump into these charts. We'll start with the S&P 500. It is down today, and man, did it accelerate. I was getting into the market at the end of the day with about 20 minutes left, and it rocketed. I mean, rocketed. I was jumping into an SH trade, which is the single inverse for the S&P 500. And as you can tell, it was a great week for SH. It has been for several weeks going forward. Now, this is an inverse fund. I'm not in any way telling anyone to invest in anything. We're an education firm. We're not a stock calling service. But if you're interested in making money when the market goes down, an inverse fund like SH can be something for you to look at. You need to practice, trade it a lot to understand how it works, when it works, and how long you can stay in with it. And if you want that training, I'll put it at the end of today's video. It's called Inverse Funds, How to Make Money When Markets Crash. So let's jump into SH. You see that it was a stellar week. I don't see going back over a year where we have more than that, all the way back to November of 2024. I don't see anything in this chart where we have had the volume to this level. And it is a downstroke of gigantic proportion. Look at this latest two-day candle. Almost 6% down on the S&P on top of the tremendous down move yesterday. Now, we told you yesterday at the close of the market that we had a 75% bearish probability, 78% backtest accuracy, and we were right. Where are we now as we leave this week and begin to move into next week? We are at an 80% bearish move. Expect about a $9.61 down move. This is over the next 5 days, 75% backtest accuracy. Your stop loss is at 515. So if it pops up there, now remember, with everything, when we are dealing with jumping into a down move, we always want to have what? A red Heikin-Ashi candle with no lower wick, strong bearish downward momentum in order to jump in. That's our confirmation. So we'll see how this next week starts. You don't want to be jumping in if the market's rebounding, which it could do after 2 days of hammer down. So on Monday morning, check things out. And man, that is just one crazy 2-day candle, isn't it? Look at the height of that volume. I bet we can go back years and not find volume that high. Now, let's look at where we are on the NASDAQ 100. It was down even more. I was working on getting into a trade on PSQ this afternoon. And again, watched it just hammer up at the end of the market. You can see where we have things smashing through that prior high, and just amazing as we look at where PSQ is going. But let's get to QQQ. So we look at QQQ, you can see, again, just like the S&P 500 on SPY, see where things hammered down in the morning and the afternoon. You can see this incredible down candle on the 2-day and the weekly, and all that ridiculously high volume. So again, stocks in the U.S. hammering down. People are in the stock market. They don't know any better, getting hammered. And that hammering may continue to occur. We have a 75% bearish down move projected. That is our directional probability for the next 5 days plus. We see a $16.77 move, 70% backtest accuracy. And our stop loss is at 435. Why? Well, that's the recent high on the 195-minute chart, approximately 2% above the entry. And again, just like we said, you want to have a red down candle on the cues for jumping in. Of course, if you're trading off PSQ, it's going to be the opposite. It's going to be a green up candle with nice volume. That's the way you jump into an up move. That is where we are. For those of you who are going to be shorting, practice your shorting on puts. Of course, again, use the charts wisely. Let's jump into bonds. So as I told you yesterday, we were correct on our bearish down move on the S&P. We were correct on our bearish down move on the NASDAQ 100. And we told you we were bullish on bonds. And we were correct there too. We told you at an 80% directional probability, an 85% backtest accuracy. And of course, your rule for jumping in is what? You want to see a green up candle with decent volume. Well, you saw that as it developed throughout the day. And of course, what do we have? Super high volume for this week, up 1.09%. TLT was a winner. Where does that take us on Monday? Well, with all of that up move, our probability of continued up movement is going down from the 80% yesterday to 65%. That was some incredible move there. So again, our probability goes down. We have a 60% backtest accuracy. We see a further move of $1.57 over the next 5 days. Plus, our jumping in point is at 93.43. That's a little bit higher than we are now. And of course, you want to jump in on what? A green Heikin-Ashi candlestick. Showing you that you've got things moving in the right direction. So again, we want to be careful. You don't just pull the trigger because you hear, hey, that might be something to jump in tomorrow, remember, or Monday. Remember, the directional probability is going down because of the exuberance today, so be careful. If you're in it and wish to stay in it, same kind of warnings. Just watch, be careful. You made you made 1.09% on Friday, so continue to watch. Remember what was happening last week, right? Last week we had things pulling back, and this week a lot of exuberance popping up to the interim high. I mean, we got to go all the way back to October of last year to be anywhere in this price range as bonds were crashing. So that is good news. Let's move on from bonds to gold. Now, gold, this is one we did not get right. I always tell you guys the truth. We were bullish on bonds. We said 80% with an 85% back test accuracy. Now, again, why did we try to make a call like that? Because we saw some resistance. We saw a potential long position there, and that did not hold. But again, our same rule for getting in. You wanted a green Heikin-Ashi candle on a 195-minute chart, and we did not have that. We had gold plunging in the morning and plunging in the afternoon, so we would not have gotten in. So unless you were an idiot who just pulled the trigger just because you heard, hey, we've got a really high percentage of gold going long tomorrow, let's just jump into it, pull a trigger with nothing to back that up. Well, that's not what we train you to do in your practice trades. So we will continue to keep an eye on things. We'll see what gold does as we look at our forecast for this next week. You'll be glad to hear that we're still 70% bullish on gold. Now, one thing I've noticed, when markets are crashing, when stocks are jamming down, you would think that gold and stocks would be inversely correlated. You hear that a lot, right? You do have that happen in the longer term. My experience is when people are getting hammered and they're having to cover their margin calls because their stocks are crashing, they tend to sell gold. And many times gold goes down at the beginning when stocks are really crashing, and gold may very well recover. So keep your eye on gold. It's only a 65% back test accuracy. We see a $5.51 expected move over the next 5+ days. So be wise, watch. If you get an opportunity, then ride that pony. Lastly, we will go to Bitcoin. Now, Bitcoin, we were bearish on yesterday. We told you we had a 75% directional probability of a down move, 72% accuracy. But like everything else, we said you need a confirming Heikin-Ashi down candle on the 195-minute chart with increasing volume. We didn't have that. We had a doji in the morning, and then things turned around, went up 2.46%. Ended us where? Just in this nether region, this area of, 55, 60% probability up or down, just depending on the day. And we're at 60% bullish on Monday, 55% backtest accuracy. That's nothing I'm excited about, okay? Nothing I'm excited about at all. But when it does come to Bitcoin, just be aware that the stop loss is at $23 and our entry point is at $23.66. That's just a little below where the market closed today. But again, we're not even looking at things going up but 84 cents. So I'm just holding off until I see some wonderful confirmation signals on Bitcoin before I have any consideration to trade it. And of course, remember, we have an inverse fund for Bitcoin. It is called BITI. And you can, I did well on that a while back. It's been, I think it was right in this area here, back in June of last year. I had a nice little trade on BITI. But again, haven't seen much happen since then. So we'll wait, we'll watch, we'll see if Bitcoin really starts to hammer down or really starts to hammer up. We'll, of course, be watching it like we do all the time. If you appreciate what we do here at chartingwealth.com, you want to become part of our support team, then you can support us on Patreon. First thing you'll get is my latest book. It's the only way you can get my latest book, 3-Wave Trading Advantage. The 3 waves are what? The weekly chart, the 2-day chart, the 195-minute chart, which is a real half day. It explains to you the Heikin-Ashi candlesticks, the volume metric, how to write good trend lines, how to get in, get out, how to do what we do here each and every day. As another added bonus, you'll get Options Made Simple, the Charting Wealth Way, our 3-part series on options. We appreciate all of you, whether you support us or not. We're here for you. We always love to hear from you. CW@chartingwealth.com. God bless. All the best from the whole team at chartingwealth.com.